Hi, I'm Tori Andreas, and you're watching Video Game Overload, the web show all about video games. With the release of the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U, the world is now in its 8th generation of video game consoles. With the release of these consoles, it's seen its fair share of good games, great games, not so great games, and everything in between. In this episode, I'm going to be telling you the history of video games and how they've been transformed into one of the biggest entertainment industries in the world today. The video game world took root back in the 1950s with two standout games, OXO and Tennis for Two. The games were a simple start to something that would soon become a worldwide phenomenon. The video game business took off as arcade games became increasingly popular. Games like Asteroids, Pac-Man, and Frogger began drawing in kids and adults of all ages. In the 1960s, the Brown Box was created. It was one of the first video game consoles ever made and allowed gamers to play popular arcade games in their very own home. The Atari 2600 led the second generation of video game consoles and generated over $2 billion for the United States video game industry alone. Although in 1983, the video game industry suffered a crash as a result of a series of, well, terrible games on the Atari. Video games were simply being viewed as a fad and were quickly becoming less popular. But thankfully, one company was able to save the day. This company was no other than Nintendo. Nintendo came out with the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, and thanks to Rob the Robot, a cute little video game controller they designed, they were able to get video games back into the homes of consumers. They marketed Rob as a toy to avoid associating their entertainment system with the negative outlook that video games were receiving at the time. In the 5th generation of gaming consoles, Nintendo came out with the Nintendo 64, which housed some of the best-rated video games of all time. Two of the most popular games on the Nintendo 64 were The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. Here we go! Sony also joined the party and released the Sony PlayStation, which rivaled Nintendo. And with the creation of their next generation console, the PlayStation 2, which came out 6 years after the PlayStation, Sony obtained the record for most video game consoles sold in the world, even today. Following up Sony's success with its consoles, Microsoft created its own gaming console called the Xbox. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony became the big three companies of the video gaming world. Online multiplayer was also introduced to console gaming, which gave it a whole new level of play. People were able to fight alongside their friends or even fight against them, which helped the competitive side of gaming to grow. Over the past few years, the consoles have been quickly evolving, allowing for motion control, high definition, new applications, and many new features to each system. And thanks to that, we can only have high hopes for what video games hold in the future. That's all the time we have for today. I'll see you next time on Game Overload.